You having carburetor problems with your Farmall tractor? You won't after this video. Okay, so here we have a Farmall M carburetor, and you can see there's 3 screws right here, here, and right there. Okay, those are your adjustment screws. This is going to be your idle screw, which sets the RPMs. This is going to be your idle air mixture, and this is going to be your main jet screw. That controls the fuel. Okay, now, when I rebuild these carburetors, I reset these at the factory settings before I put them on a tractor. I have done a couple for tractor owners and sent them at the factory setting. And I tell them, when you get this carburetor and put it on your tractor, you're going to have to tweak some of these screws. And I usually send them a little tight piece of paper that tells them the exact settings, where they're at, and where they may need to go. I'm not trying to personify these tractors at all, but they all have a mind of their own. Each engine is different. Some are similar, but you can't count on that. So let's start right at the top here. This is your idle control. Okay, right out of the factory, most of these were set, most of your idles were set at 425 RPMs, okay? You want to set this with a tachometer. It's the only way you're going to know the RPMs. Now we come down to the idle air mixture. All right. When I rebuild a carburetor, this, I tighten that down clear to the bottom. And when I do that, I don't, get both hands on the flathead screwdriver and power it in. These are not things that you want to crank with all your might. All right. And if there is a little bit of wind, sorry about that. But I am outside right now. You want to tighten this up until it stops turning. That is called bottom, all the way tight. When I rebuild a carburetor, I take this out one full turn. You're pretty close, okay? Some people will tell you a turn and a half, but I come out one full turn. And, with that, you pretty much can finagle that to where you're seeing smoke come out of the stack, and then turn it back just a little bit, and you shouldn't see any smoke coming out at all. Now let's go down to your main jet, okay? When I rebuilt a carburetor, all right, the factory setting on these main jets was 3 turns out. That's going to also get you in the ballpark. Now, again, it depends on the tractor. It depends on the engine. Who really knows at the end of the day? I can rebuild a carburetor and put it on this tractor and get it running perfectly for this tractor itself, and I can send it to you tested, and the settings are completely off for your Farmall M. It's just a fact. It does happen. This I turned 3 turns out. Now, one thing I will tell you about the main jet, okay, let's say I turn it 3 turns out. That's the factory setting. And you also, I want to tell you, you want to set this at 3/4 throttle. I always set this, I hit 3/4 throttle. Of course, tractor's in neutral. By that time, you figure it out pretty much. You're not going to get run over, and it's not in gear. But set it at 3/4 throttle. Turn this out, okay? Now, the one thing I will tell you about the main jet is that sometimes when you get under load, you may have to turn that out. I've had to turn it out as much as a half a turn. These aren't micro settings, but you don't want to go doing big turns on these. It's just a little slow turn at a time. Your idles, you want to make sure that not only are you idling, but your engine is at operating temperature when you do that. Now, let's say you have a carburetor and it's leaking. All right. You got a float stuck. 9 times out of 10, you can take a hammer right here and just give it some love taps. Just start tapping on it until you see the leak and stop. Most of the time that works. Now, I will tell you, with a carburetor, by the time your float's getting sticky and stupid, If you want to do the hammer tap for another 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, that's fine. Depending on how much you use the tractor, you may even get years of doing the old hammer tap. Eventually, it's not going to work. Most of the time, by the time your float's sticking, you need to drop this bowl and check that float, because who knows, it could have a hole in it, or it could just, you need to put a new kit in it. Most of the time when that happens, I just throw a new kit in it and I'm done with it. Another reason your carburetor may not be working, let's say all your settings are correct, all right? You might have dirt in it. And it don't take a handful of dirt. It doesn't. These ports in here are mini ports. They're micro, okay? So a buildup of crap over time can clog those ports and stop your carburetor from running. I always assume fuel is dirty. I always skew on the side that it is not clean and has other stuff in it, especially if you're running ethanol, which I do not recommend for these machines. To prevent a lot of the crap from going in here, I do have a screen right there that comes off of that line. It is a looks like a copper screen. It's real fine. I have my inline and I have the fuel bowl filter. Most of the fuel that goes in there is about as clean as you're going to get it. Does that still mean it's perfect? Probably not, but it's going to be a lot closer to perfect than what it would be under the old bowl system. You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, they had it right back then. They had it right. I don't know. I think that, you know, that's the same thing as saying a 1922 car is built just the same as a car that is today. I think that technology has done wonders, okay? And there's nothing wrong with adding an inline filter. I've had a lot of people, like I say, tell me that they're having carburetor problems, and I'm starting to wonder if the settings aren't correct. Some people have actually said the settings aren't correct on there. They've messed with them too much. So that's a good start. Turn this all the way in, come out 3 turns. Turn this one in, come out 1 turn, and go from there. But if you've got dirt in your carb, you need to get it cleaned out. How to clean that out, I recommend taking it apart. You might as well throw a new kit in it, or have somebody put a new kit in it that knows what they're doing. I like an ultrasonic cleaner. Put it in there for a few hours, and you're not going to get it any cleaner. Also, if you have like varnishing on the bottom of this bowl, actually throwing heat to it will get a lot of that crap off of there. And you can also take a flathead screwdriver and scrape the rest of it off of there. These are just some of the little tricks of the trade that has helped me out over the years. This is your drain right here. I can twist that and the fuel will start coming out. Make sure that you're at least getting fuel into your carburetor. A lot of people will crank and crank and crank and crank, and well, it won't start, and they'll blame the carburetor. Meanwhile, the carb's full of gas, and you go pull a spark plug and it's soaking wet. You're not getting sparks. So I really want to stay focused on the carburetor, though, this video, and those are the adjustments. Some of you guys worked at the IH plant. I know for a fact that watch my videos. If you have any recommendations, leave a comment down below. But I'm just telling you what works for me. You get, 10 guys in a room talking about Farmall carburetors that think they know a lot about Farmall carburetors. You probably get 11 different ideas on how to adjust them and where they should be. I've even had guys tell me, oh, you should 5 turns, up to 5 turns out. You turn this out 5 turns, and I'm going to tell you, it's coming out. So I've never had one turn more than 4. Like I say, I go 3. Under load, I had to come out another maybe quarter to a half a turn max. But that should put you in the ballpark. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Boom.